So hi, Will Noise Podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm Glory.
And we're here with
Jhariah.
And we're some questions to say about his new album, Trust Ceremony. So congrats on that, by the way. How do you feel about the response to it so far?
Thank you. I feel good. I feel great, actually. I mean, it's so satisfying having it be out in the world, and like people are kind of receiving it exactly how I hoped they would receive it, which is pretty. I feel like that's pretty rare, honestly. Even like in the best of cases, I feel like it's always something a little different, which isn't necessarily bad, but people are kind of listening to the songs and like it seems like people get them, which is cool. It's very validating.
It's fucking
Hell
awesome.
Yeah. It's amazing.
The album is so good. I was listening through it again before the interview. You've outdone yourself on this one.
Absolutely. It's fucking incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, thanks.
Of course. And it's awesome to see the growth, because obviously we've known you for a long time. The last time we chatted with just you was off the back of the last EP, and there's just been so much growth, so much change.
Yeah.
Now there's sold out headlining shows and 500,000 monthlies, and we didn't have that 3 years ago the last time we spoke. So it's just awesome to see you grow. And
3 years? That's crazy.
Well, yeah, I mean, we spoke with Save Face, what was it, last year? You were in a park, but the last time we just spoke about your project specifically was off the back of the last EP, and lots changed since then, I would think.
Lots changed. Damn. Oh my god.
Yeah. Awesome.
Oh.
So, is there any meaning behind the album title or cover art?
Yeah, I would hope there's meaning behind it. Yeah, okay. Well, I guess I can start with the title. I mean, I went through a lot of titles, which I always do. It's like the last thing I ever do when I make something. So I didn't title it until I had the whole thing almost done. And like everybody on my team was like, it's time for a title. It's time to call it something. And how I ended up on Trust Ceremony is that I wanted the album to be about I don't know, I guess I wanted the album to be about like celebrating overcoming fear and like finding your truth, you know what I mean? And I feel like I went through a lot of like really bad names trying to convey that idea, just because it's so vague, you know what I mean? Like how do you overcome fear? Like what is truth? What does that even mean? And I think the word ceremony just kept coming back to me as sort of like this like big like grand means of celebrating the thing, as like giving a ritual to it, giving a ritual to putting things out in the world that you want to create and like seeing them come to fruition. And like, I don't know, the image of like a celebration just kept coming back, and I thought ceremony felt like the move.
Yeah, I would say so. And the cover art?
Yeah, and the cover art was that was another thing that happened very, very late in the game, like literally the week before the album came out or something like that.
Damn, wow. What?
I was like working on that album art like in the van when we were, I think, on our way like out of Virginia. Like,
so that's the tail end of the tour. Like the tour's about to wrap. The album's coming out in a couple days.
Yeah. It was a crazy end of that tour for a lot of reasons, but mainly that. But the album art is I guess just sort of like a visual representation of that like ceremony thing. It's just like kept coming back to this visual of like sort of that there are two versions of me, or two versions of any person, and that one version of you is like striving and climbing and like pushing upwards, trying to reach something and fighting against gravity, I guess. And the other version of you is sort of on the other side of everything you're trying to get to, on the other side of the goals you have for yourself, and what the version of you that you want to become. And sort of the idea of the album is that version of you is sort of like calling you, and you're calling that version, and you're trying to bring the two together in this middle ground. And the album cover is sort of trying to express this feeling of like limbo, I guess, like that space in between when like neither of the dots have connected yet.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Oh.
And you said that the cover art was literally finished, wrapped up, and sent in days before the album was even released. So was that kind of like a procrastination situation, or was it more of kind of like a, it's just not right
It
yet?
was like there were just so many problems I
Mm.
ran into with like getting the album just done and
Uh,
getting it finished. Because also, like, the album itself also got sent in like
mm.
a week or something before it came out. Like, it was a crazy time because really what just happened is that I had this album like since like last year, like since
Mm.
Risk came out, I had this album that was like almost done, quote unquote. And I have like the full track list. I know, like, I've known for years like what this album looks like and where I need it to be. You know what I mean? But it ended up being a thing where I wanted to finish it last like July, and then like delays happened, and then we get caught up in releasing the first single because there's a schedule to stick to, and you kind of don't want to get caught in that like holiday season or whatever. It really what it was, I was just so committed to like the schedule I had like invented for myself for this album rollout that I think we started it like before it was like time, which worked out. I was, like, I wouldn't go back and change it, but then we just toured so much. And that was like the big thing, that all the time I'd set out to finish the album and like really lock it in and have it done before this year, just didn't happen. Like, we did that tour last summer, and then we did the tour with Pink Shift and Pollyanna. And then we get back and I'm like, all right, time to finish it. And by the time, it's like really every time you start to get into a groove and you feel like you're almost done, you're preparing for another tour. And then we're prepping for the headliner, which is for an album that I haven't finished. And really I guess the final nail in the coffin was that the album was supposed to come out earlier than it originally did. We pushed it back. We had the album set. We told everybody like this is like final. It's coming out like beginning of April. Okay, that's what we say. We go to like around all of our music people, and we're like, we show them the songs. We show them like the album in its like incomplete state, and we're like, this is basically it. I hope you like it. It's coming out this day. Yeah. And then we hit the beginning of tour, and I'm like, it's just not gonna happen. Like, and all the pieces have already started moving. We've already started sending it out to people, and I'm just like, it's not done. Like, it's not done, and I'm going on this tour. All I can do is hope I can finish it on this tour. We push it back another month, and at that point, we just didn't have the option to push back the date again. So I just had to finish it. And we reached like 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week out from release. I'm still working on the album. I'm still fixing things and tracking. And then, if I could have pushed it back, I would have. But at that point, it was like, we got to just send it. We got to just do it.
Yeah.
So it really came down to the wire. And I think the only reason I even was able to get the album art done was just because I'd spent like 5 years thinking about like album art ideas.
Yeah, fair enough.
Good.
Yeah.
So with it being out and everyone enjoying it, are you 100% happy with the finished product?
I think so. I mean, so the thing is that the album came out, and like I started like just freaking out about so much stuff, because this is the first time I've had an album where I didn't have time to like sit with it in its done state before like it coming out. Like, literally the album was done and it was out of my hands instantly. Like, there was nothing I could do. So even after the album came out, like, I don't know if anybody's noticed, but the tracks have changed a little bit.
Still working.
And I think they will continue to change a little bit. Small little things, like nothing, stuff that really I feel like only I would care about. But I figured, you know what? This is my baby. This is my album. And if I feel like it can be a little better, I might as well.
And
but
it's also it's 2024. You're not putting the stuff on. It's not going direct to vinyl. It's up in the air. It's in the clouds. You can just change it.
Exactly.
No one knows.
And change the cover of Self-Titled a decade later. Who says I can't go in and boost the high end a little?
Exactly.
There you go. I don't see a problem with it.
Now, So you're recording on this tour, but weren't you recording like on the previous tours as well?
Yeah. I mean, at this point, I've been recording on tours like for the last year. So, like,
Damn.
all the tours we've done over like 2023 and 2024, I've been recording this album.
Damn.
How the hell do you balance that, like the scheduling and also like just the headspace and the mindset, because I would say they're two completely different headspaces to be in.
They're totally different headspaces, and tour is already interesting because you're bouncing between the headspace of managing a tour and like doing logistics and being there just as a human with your friends and with your bandmates, and then also playing a show. And then you throw in this third thing where you're thinking about an album and the millions of things that come along with that. And it's pretty overwhelming. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It got pretty difficult, you know? It's like it was really just a grind, like especially on this last tour, just every minute I had free, I was working on this album. I was like in the van, I was in the hotels and the B&Bs, I was in the green room before the show working on the album and working on it after on the way to the hotel.
Yeah.
And I lost a lot of sleep, lost a lot of rest.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just feel like at this point, it's just kind of how I function, you know?
Yeah, that's fair.
So since you kind of figured out that you might function that way, does it pull you out of like the moment, like to kind of, are you able, when you're on like a headlining tour like the one that just did so well, are you able to still take a step back and be like, holy fuck, or are you having that moment now that the record is out and you're removed from the tour and like it's peace and serenity, and you just said, you know, before we started you were playing Minecraft all day yesterday, like now are you getting a chance to reflect on everything, or were you able to reflect on the road?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to reflect on the road, and I could feel it when I was there. I was like, I don't feel like I'm fully here, like fully experiencing what's happening and appreciating it. And like, you know, in that sense, I do wish that things could have been different. I definitely don't think I'm gonna do that again, but it just like really hit me when the album finished. Like we were in the van on our way, I think on our way to New York, probably, or like one of those like, no, actually it was after the last show. It was after the last show in Philly, and we're leaving, and I had like just gotten back the like final masters, and we listened to it in the van, and it just like everything just like hit me, you know. Like it was this crazy moment, you know, because like everybody's in the van like sobbing because it feels like this like huge journey, you know what I mean, like the album and the tour, and like we pulled it off. And I just like realized in that moment, like, oh my god, like, you know, not just like the last like, you know, couple weeks on tour, but the last few years, like all of it, like all of the work, all of these like moments that I wasn't fully present in, like looking out on stage and being like, I don't feel like I'm fully here. I just feel like the gravity of like everything that's happened in my life and in my career kind of came together in that moment when I heard the album, and I was like, holy shit, you know, like where am I now, you know, compared to a few years ago. It's like, I don't know, it was like traveling through time or something.
Completely fair.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you mentioned a lot of this record was written on the road, some of it was written on home. What percentage would you say was written on the road?
Ooh, what percentage is written on the road?
Recorded, written, you know, the whole 9 yards.
I would say, I don't know, maybe like 20% of it.
Okay.
Most of it happened like at home. Like some of it happened in my childhood bedroom, some of it happened in my first apartment and here. But yeah, most of it I feel like happens like alone in my studio, and then a good other chunk happens in like other studios where I'm bringing in musicians to kind of bring the ideas to life.
Yeah.
And then on the road, what it was just a lot of like refining ideas and getting them finished and stuff like that. Like it was a significant amount, but I think most of it, I don't think I could write like a whole album on the road. It's just, it doesn't seem possible.
No. So, talking about writing, are you able to kind of walk us through that process, doing it in so many different rooms and, as you said, your old apartment, your childhood room, a little bit on the road? Can you tell us if there's any differences throughout those, or are you able to just kind of do it anywhere?
Yeah, well, I guess, yeah, I can talk a bit about my process because I think the way that I approach writing albums is also like a pretty crucial element of how it's possible to do it that way for me.
Mm,
Because the way I approach writing an album is sort of like, I don't know, like writing a movie or writing a book. Like there is an overall like grand outline for the thing. There's an arc, there's a story.
yeah.
Like even before most of these songs were written, there was a track list. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Like there were tracks and there were names of each track that most of which didn't make it, but like there were ideas, I guess. Like I knew what I wanted each song to be about and how I wanted them to be connected and what the overall image was.
huh.
And then on a more granular level, I have an idea of like what each song is supposed to sound like and what the arrangement is. Like I feel like a lot of these ideas kind of come to me pretty fleshed out, like pretty fully formed.
Yeah.
So it gives me this really big framework for not only the songs but for the album to shape together. So when I'm on the road, you know, some of it is trying to like manage that framework and maintaining it, like changing things around like in a grander sense, but a lot of the time it's more like going in and being like, I have this giant grid with like 100 squares or something that are just like pieces of the album that have to get done. So, you know, when we go into the studio to be like, okay, I already have like drum parts written for like the whole album. So like, let's do 5 of them today. Let's do 4 tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'll go into the studio or a big example is like I'll sit in the hotel on tour and be like, okay, I have like 5 songs left that aren't done, and it's missing. This one's missing this verse. This one's missing a bridge. But you know, it's like it's only possible to do it that way because I have like a bigger structure for it. You know, I'm not kind of working from scratch. It's more like I've given myself like a I don't know, like a coloring book, I guess, and I just have
Yeah.
to fill all of it in.
Gotcha.
Yeah, absolutely. So going into writing, you already know what you're gonna do. You're like, I have this idea for the full album. I know what each song is gonna do. I know the purpose of every song. I just have to kind of get it out of me.
Yeah, pretty much. Because I
That's
mean,
crazy.
I never know what I'm gonna do, but I know
Mm.
what I want. I guess if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's fucking
There's
awesome.
there's a plan. You know, it's like
Yeah,
building a house.
exactly. Yeah.
All
Hmm,
right, that's cool.
badass.
Yeah. So, what song off this album took longest to write, and which one is your personal favorite?
Um, the one that took the longest to write, either, ugh, God, it either would have to be Pin Eye or Fire for Fun. I mean, Pin
Mm.
Eye definitely, I think, probably took the most hours for sure. I mean, I started that song in 2018. Like it was fully called Pin Eye. Like I had that first verse is like very, very similar to what it was like when I wrote it when I was like 17 or something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I had that's an example of a song where there was a framework. I knew I wanted this big sort of like funky, like bulk of the song, and then I wanted this big B section in the end that was like heavier and different, and it just took like 5 years to actually bring all the pieces together and like find, I don't know, discover the parts of myself that were necessary to write that song. You know, a lot of songs kind of I know that they're going to take me somewhere in life and then I won't be able to finish them until I get there.
Huh.
And for that, I think for that reason, that song also might be my favorite. You know, I love that song.
All
Yeah.
right. Hell
That's
yeah.
fair. Good pick. So, would you be able to tell us where your headspace is at while you're creating this album?
I mean, everywhere. You know,
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
song. I mean, the album is really just about like who I am and who I want to be. You know, like
Mhm.
what do I see for myself? What do I dream for myself? So I think like what was special about this album is that it was partly aspirational and that I was writing songs about who I wanted to be and like where I wanted to be, and acknowledging that the process of making the album is kind of getting me closer to being there, you
Mhm.
know? Um so yeah, I don't know. It's like it's kind of covering like really the full spectrum, I guess, of things I could write about. Like when I finished the album, I had nothing else to write about. I was everything.
Yeah. Yeah. Clean
Gotcha.
slate.
So how do you recommend your fans to listen to this album for the first time? Should you do in the car with friends and talk with headphones on? Is workout album, party album? What do you personally recommend?
I mean, I think the album, it's as much as I like love the album like in its entirety and I love like every part of it, I think it's really like an album that's for listening, like sonically. And what I mean by that is that I think it's like everything I want to say in the album, while I say it in words, I think can be experienced through the music.
Mm-hmm.
So I almost wouldn't listen that carefully to the words the first time. I feel like just play it loud and play it in order and in full. And I think it's one of those things where when you listen to it the second time, like hopefully just intuitively you'll be like, oh yeah, like that is kind of what I thought this song was about, even if I didn't get it like in, you know, in that way.
Yeah.
Typically we ask artists like their favorite lyric off of whatever body of work, but since you're like a little bit more, you know, obviously the lyrics are important, but you mentioned, you know, the really listen to the instrumentals. Do you have a favorite like instrumental part on the record?
Well, I gotta pull up the track list.
Okay.
Let me see. That's a good question.
Thank you. And if you have a favorite lyric, you're more than welcome to throw that in there too.
Yeah, I do have a favorite lyric. Okay, so production wise, I think one of my favorite like moments on the album has to be like the bridge of Pin Eye. You know what I mean? Like the big like breakdown section where it's just like this drum solo and all these like horn hits, like boom, 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 boom. I love that part. I feel like I tried so many versions of that song where there were lyrics there and where there were words, and I don't think anything like encapsulated what I wanted to say better than just the chaos of everything hitting in unison and doing its thing.
Yeah.
And my favorite lyric on the album, I think, is in the first verse of Sasuke. There's the lyric, oh whoa, what is the lyric? I understand now the world will not leave me behind, but it will not wait up. I think that was like
So
a lyric I wrote down, and I was like, damn, that's true. You know?
Like shit.
I didn't realize I needed to hear that.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. So this one should be super, super quick. Off the top of your head, I want you to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words. No more, no less.
Oh my God. Whoa. I mean, trust.
Okay.
Obviously. I think that's the core of the album.
Mm-hmm.
Boundless.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
And roller coaster.
There you go. Trust, boundless, roller coaster. Love it.
Perfect.
All right.
Yeah.
And in that same train of thought, is there a certain feeling or emotion you want listeners to have while going through the album?
Yeah, I think bravery. I think like whatever you take away from the album, I hope people just listen to it and feel a little bit more equipped to do things that scare them.
Fuck yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
So are you able to touch on any particularly challenging or standout moments from the creation of this album, positive or negative?
Oh, I mean, there are so many. I'm trying to think of like what's a standout moment.
And it could be positive as well. A lot of people always go for negative when I ask this question, but it could be a good memory too.
Yeah.
There are lots of good memories. I mean, okay, well here's one. Here's a really good one I love. At the very, very end of the album, at the end of the song Trust Ceremony, there is this big like gang vocal with like me and like the rest of like the band and crew from this tour.
Yeah.
And that was at Alan's house, who plays saxophone in the live band and also in a couple songs on this record. And that was at the very, very end of the tour. We were staying at his house before doing those last 3 shows in the Northeast. And at this point, I knew I had to finish the album. Like we had to leave that house with a record, you know?
Yeah.
And I just been so like so caught up in this race against time because I think I started the tour being like, I want to finish this album and hurry up and get it done so I can enjoy the tour. And I think it started setting in when I only had 3 shows left and the album wasn't done, that I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna get to do that exactly the way I wanted to. Like, obviously I love the tour. I enjoyed it. But I was like in a weird place and I felt very overwhelmed and maybe kind of isolated just because I was kind of stuck in this thing, like separately from everybody. And basically we just sat down in Alan's room and he helped me record a bunch of stuff for the album. And I got like Eden and Tay and Alan and just everybody was just there helping me work on the album, which is like very, very rare for me. So much of it is like such a lonely process that it's hard to do in an environment like that where you're like with people all the time. And I think kind of letting everybody into the process and like allowing them to sort of carry me to the finish line when I really had like nothing left was a very special moment. So at the very end of that song, we do this gang vocal where it's just all of us like crammed in Alan's room and we just like start recording and sing the last couple lines of the album together. And I love that clip literally like makes me cry every time.
That's fucking awesome.
That's
and what a fitting way to like close the record off. Like you got everybody around you that was like carrying you to the finish line to finish the record, and they're also at the finish line of the album ending. So I like that.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it was a really, really special day.
Hell yeah.
I'm always gonna have that memory now. Like anytime I listen to that song, anytime we play it, like that day will always like be there, you know.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Perfect.
So for this question, we want you to picture you're on tour. You're at a gas station for a rest stop. What is your snack of choice?
Ooh, my snack of choice. It's like changed in every tour. I've kind of been on like a Lunchables wave the last like 6 months.
Okay.
We'll hit a gas stop and I'll just get like a Lunchables and like a cup of grapes or something. And like that, it's like a meal.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, hell yeah. Damn right. Yeah. Bougie.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Wonderful. And on the topic of food, if your music project was a dish, what dish would it be and why?
Ooh, if my music project was a dish, what would it be? Funnily enough, this is something I'm working on. This is the thing I'm actively working on. Stay tuned. But I feel like it would kind of be, first of all, the album I already envision as like a really long multi-course meal, like one that like takes you 5 hours.
Yeah.
Like sit at a table and just hang out all day and eat food. But I think if I had to describe it overall, I almost would want to say like some kind of seafood stew or like a paella. You know what I mean? Like I'm just envisioning like big family dish, you know, with like a bunch of shit in there and everybody can just like pick pieces out of it. So yeah, I'm gonna say paella. Paella.
Wonderful. All right. Is that a hint? Are you making a paella for merch or something?
I mean, it's such a crazy idea. You're just gonna have to be there.
Damn it. Okay.
All right. And for this last question, we're placing you and your entire band in a horror movie. Who's dying first and who's going to survive until the end?
Oh, God. We've talked about this. I really think we've talked about Okay. Well, okay. Going based off of the band and crew on this last tour. So it's 7 of us, right? So it's myself. We have Eden on guitar, Bree on drums, Tay on bass, Alan on sax, Henry doing photo and lights, and Ben doing sound and crew and driving in general. So this is what I'm thinking. So okay, do you want to know who would go first and who would go last? Is that like in order?
Yes. You can yeah, that's in order.
Okay. I think Bree would last the longest for sure.
Okay.
Without a doubt, Bree is like the most equipped out of all of us to handle the zombie apocalypse. After that, I want to say like, ooh, this is hard. I want to say Ben. In second place, I want to put Ben. I feel like he's kind of got like he's got the demeanor. I feel like he's got the skill set to kind of navigate through all of that. After that, I'm saying I'm gonna say Eden after that, actually. I originally think I had Eden lower on the list, but I feel like I feel like whoa. I mean, hey, somebody has to be.
Yeah.
No, you're right.
I feel like Eden's ability to like form and like maintain like friendships and stuff like would be a huge like carry in a zombie apocalypse. You know, like you gotta have people.
Exactly.
I think I'd actually put myself right below Eden for like the same reason. Like I don't know if I necessarily have all the skills for like a zombie apocalypse, but I feel like my friends would be like down.
Exactly.
To carry me there. Oh my gosh. Actually, okay. I have an adjustment. I want to move myself down. I feel like Alan would be like a little bit above me in that sense because I feel like he kind of has like a lot of those skills, but I feel like Alan actually does have like way more skills than I have as far as like surviving in an apocalypse. I don't know how or like where these skills came from. I guess just various endeavors throughout.
I guess so. Yeah.
It's getting hard. I feel like this list could be different on like any day, depending on like what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But okay, so what does that leave? Does that leave? Okay, I think that leaves Tay and Henry, which is like, oh my god, that's so tricky. Oh my god, wait. I want to say I would put Tay second to last.
Okay.
Also, like in this context, I feel like all of us would be like, I feel like we could all kind of make that happen. Like an apocalypse, I feel like this is like a group of people very equipped for that situation. Personally. At the bottom, I feel like I'd put Henry only because I feel like he just have the least like tolerance for being in an apocalypse to begin with. You know what I mean?
No, that's fair.
I feel like there'd be zombies, and you'd be like, "What is this? Like, why are we doing this?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. There's my very subjective in the moment.
Perfect.
Wonderful.
So as I said, that's all the questions we have today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
Oh my gosh, what do I want to plug? Well, my album Trust Ceremony is out now. It's everywhere. Please go give it a listen. I hope you like it. It is all I'm going to talk about for the next like year. So I got nothing if you don't like it. But there's also so much more planned. There's visual things and there's in-person things and there's all these different album experiences that I'm working on. And I'm just being real patient with them because I want them to all be very special and very cool. But stay tuned, watch out. I think if you've heard the album, then great. I think you're also gonna experience it in some other ways pretty soon.
Hell yeah. All right. Well, thank you for now. It's been Jhariah, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.